In the summer of 1518, a woman stepped into the streets of a small European city and began dancing. At first, nobody paid attention. But she didn't stop. Hours passed. Then days. Soon, dozens joined her. Then hundreds. Some collapsed from exhaustion. Some reportedly died. And nobody could explain why. Why did an entire town begin dancing uncontrollably? Was it a disease? Mass hysteria? Poison? Or something even stranger? Today, on Legacy, we investigate a mystery that defies belief. To understand the dancing plague, we must first transport ourselves to early 16th century Europe. This was a continent gripped by profound change and even deeper anxiety. Political and religious tensions simmered, fueled by the burgeoning Protestant Reformation and the looming threat of conflicts. But beyond the grand narratives of kings and clergy, daily life for most was a brutal struggle against relentless poverty, widespread famine, and the ever-present specter of disease. It was an age where superstition often filled the gaps left by a nascent scientific understanding. Our story unfolds in Strasbourg, a vibrant, yet crowded imperial free city located on the Rhine River, in what is now modern-day France. Imagine narrow, cobbled streets winding between tall timber-framed houses. The air would have been thick with the smells of bustling markets, religious incense, and the raw realities of urban life. The cathedral, a towering symbol of faith, dominated the skyline, a constant reminder of God's omnipresence and, for many, his potential wrath. It was a city where faith and fear were intertwined, setting the stage for the unthinkable. The documented records for this strange event begin in July 1518, with a woman known as Frau Trophia. Accounts state that she stepped out of her house, onto the street, and began to dance. Not in joy, not in celebration, but with a peculiar, almost desperate intensity. She was alone, seemingly compelled by some unseen force. Why she started, no one knew. But her movements were relentless, a disturbing spectacle for her neighbors in the otherwise mundane routine of the city. The initial curiosity quickly morphed into concern. Frau Trophia continued to dance, hour after hour, without rest. Witnesses reported that she danced for days, her body moving with an exhausting, repetitive motion. Her family, naturally alarmed, tried to intervene, to make her stop, but their efforts were futile. The physical toll must have been immense, her feet swollen and bruised, her body pushed to its absolute limits. But she seemed unable to cease, trapped in a relentless rhythm. The question burned in the minds of those who watched: what force possessed her, and why couldn't she simply stop? Within days, Frau Trophia was no longer alone. One by one, other residents of Strasbourg began to join her. Initially, it was just a handful, then a dozen, then rapidly increasing to several dozen. The sight must have been terrifying, men and women, young and old, all compelled by the same unseen force, dancing with the same desperate energy in the city's crowded squares and thoroughfares. Panic began to ripple through the city's authorities. This was no ordinary ailment. This was an escalating crisis that defied all known understanding. Local authorities and medical professionals of the time were utterly bewildered. Lacking any modern understanding of psychology or epidemiology, their explanations were rooted in humoral theory, a belief that the body was governed by four primary fluids. They diagnosed the dancers with hot blood, a condition believed to be cured by more dancing. They reasoned that if the afflicted could simply dance their feverish blood out, they would recover. This fatal misjudgment would dramatically escalate the problem, creating a public health disaster. In a desperate, and ultimately tragic, attempt to cure the growing number of dancers, the city officials actually encouraged the phenomenon. They hired musicians, erected stages, and even opened guild halls for the dancers, believing that if they simply exhausted themselves, the plague would pass. They thought they were facilitating a remedy. Instead, they were creating a highly public, highly contagious spectacle. Crowded streets, filled with both the afflicted and the curious, became breeding grounds for the condition to spread further. The number of dancers swelled from dozens to hundreds. Contemporary accounts describe a horrifying scene, a chaotic mass of humanity, stumbling, whirling, and collapsing in the streets. People danced until their feet bled, until their muscles gave out, until their hearts simply could not take anymore. Reports, though varying in precise numbers, consistently describe dozens, and possibly hundreds, succumbing to the intense physical exertion, dying from heart attacks, strokes, or sheer exhaustion. Strasbourg, a city once bustling with commerce, descended into a macabre carnival of death. As the death toll mounted, public fear intensified, and with it, the religious interpretations. Many believed the dancing plague was a divine punishment, a curse from God, or the work of demonic possession. Some invoked Saint Vitus, a patron saint traditionally associated with dancing manias and epilepsy, praying for his intercession. The local leaders, having failed with their medical remedies, now turned to spiritual ones, banning music and public dancing, and ordering masses and processions to appease divine wrath. But the dancing, for some, persisted. 5 centuries later, modern historians and scientists began their own investigation into this bewildering event. Our understanding relies heavily on meticulously preserved historical records, city documents from the Strasbourg Council, chronicles written by local scribes and doctors, and even church records. These fragmented pieces of the past offer glimpses into the terror and confusion of 1518. But how reliable are these centuries-old accounts? Can we truly discern fact from fear, or exaggeration from eyewitness testimony? The challenge for investigators lies in sifting through layers of historical interpretation. While the core fact that hundreds danced uncontrollably is remarkably consistent across multiple, independent accounts, many details remain uncertain. Precise casualty figures, for instance, vary. Some reports speak of deaths, while others focus more on the phenomenon itself. We must acknowledge that eyewitnesses, especially during times of mass panic, are often prone to exaggeration or misinterpretation. Our task is to piece together the most plausible narrative from these echoes of the past. One of the most persistent scientific theories points to ergot poisoning, a condition known as ergotism. Ergot is a parasitic fungus that grows on rye and other cereal grains, especially in damp conditions. When ingested, typically through contaminated bread, it produces powerful hallucinogenic and convulsive effects. Symptoms can include intense muscle spasms, tremors, and even hallucinations, leading to uncontrolled movements. We know that conditions in 1518 Strasbourg were ripe for such contamination, with poverty and poor harvests prevalent. While ergotism presents compelling symptoms, it faces significant weaknesses as a sole explanation for the dancing plague. Could poisoned food truly cause days of non-stop dancing, some for 6 consecutive days without rest? Ergot poisoning typically results in incapacity